Trump holds the initiative in the conflict with Iran. He can pause the air campaign, return to diplomacy, or initiate the next escalation. But in recent weeks, that control has started to slip as the conflict spreads across several fronts. Iran and its proxies attacked US forces in Jordan and Kuwait. In response, Washington struck Iranian-linked positions in Iraq and repositioned F-16s, F-35s, and tanker aircraft around the periphery. Meanwhile, the Houthis began targeting Saudi exports and struck inside the kingdom for the first time since 2022. The Pentagon can choose to escalate, but every option invites a wider response. Limited strikes have run their course, while a broader attack, such as on bridges and power plants, could trigger retaliation against Gulf infrastructure. Israeli involvement is no good either. It would just drag more nations into the fight. Even a small ground operation is risky, as it could leave US troops trapped under constant fire. Diplomacy offers a way out, but Trump would struggle to defend it at home. Iran wants sanctions relief and recognition of its influence over Hormuz. Those concessions could restore some stability, but they would also provoke Trump's hawkish supporters, Republican lawmakers, and Israeli lobbying groups. And so, ironically, the deal most likely to stop the war is also the one Trump can least afford to make. A few weeks ago, Anthropic pulled its AI model, Fable 5, offline without warning. The removal fueled speculation that it had become too powerful. The ban was later lifted, but Anthropic would not have reworked the model unless its capabilities were worth preserving. And that is where today's sponsor, Outskill, comes in. Its Claude Mastery Sprint is designed to show you how to put those capabilities to work. It's happening this weekend from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and covers Claude, its practical use cases, and more than 10 other AI tools. What's more, they've made it completely free for the CaspianReport audience. Just register through the link in the bio. Over 10 million people around the world have already gone through this. If you're even remotely serious about Claude, this isn't one to skip. In 2 days, you'll run deep research with Claude, build your own artifacts and dashboards, put together full presentations, and set up connectors that automate the boring stuff, even your job search. You'll get hands-on with Claude Code, build custom agents, generate AI visuals and videos, and walk out with your entire week running on autopilot. Sign up now, and you'll also unlock 3 bonuses: 50 secret Claude codes that turn it into a god-tier tool, a complete AI prompt library, and a personalized AI toolkit builder. Plus, you're being mentored by leaders from Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Nvidia. 2 days can change the next 2 years. Sign up before seats sell out. The link is in the description, scan the QR code, and join the WhatsApp community before it closes. Trump's inner circle is split on Iran. Some want to hit the country harder, while others want to negotiate. Hegseth leads the first camp. He supports a renewed campaign to destroy Iran's missile arsenal, arguing that heavier strikes could force Tehran's hand, even though the attacks so far have changed very little. General Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has taken a more cautious line. He is open to another round of hostilities, but also warns against conflict escalation and points to America's commitments to allies elsewhere. Rubio, meanwhile, continues to push diplomacy. He insists that Iran must negotiate more seriously and frames the war as a fight for the freedom of navigation on which global trade depends. Vance has also pushed privately for negotiations. Like Kane, he questions what conflict escalation would actually achieve, although he has made clear that he will support whatever the president decides. Caught between these positions, Trump has yet to settle on a clear policy. His administration still cannot agree on whether the objective is to prevent an Iranian bomb, reopen Hormuz, or destroy Iran's missile arsenal. In effect, no one has yet worked out how the war is supposed to end. At the center of the dispute is the Strait of Hormuz. Iran insists that any post-war settlement must recognize its right to collect tolls from ships passing through the strait. Tehran says this was implied in the June agreement. America, however, disagrees. Oman has reportedly secured Gulf Arab support for a voluntary toll system, but Washington and Tehran remain far apart. And so, when the Americans rejected Iran's position, it triggered weeks of attacks and counterattacks, mostly initiated by the US. The fighting was the worst since the initial ceasefire in April, but it produced the opposite result the US had intended. Iran took the hits and kept fighting. And by doing so, by absorbing the strikes without backing down, Iran showed that military pressure would not force it to compromise. And that newfound confidence changes just about everything. A new agreement now would require even larger concessions than before. Trump may have to ease more sanctions, restore Iran's access to oil markets, and release additional assets before Tehran gives up anything in return. Most problematic of all, Trump may have to accept some form of Iranian hegemony over Hormuz. But a deal on those terms would only settle the immediate crisis. Iran's missile arsenal, nuclear program, and regional proxies would require a whole different set of negotiations and concessions. Diplomacy, therefore, is possible but politically risky. A poll by Reuters and Ipsos released on July 28th found that only around one-third of Americans approved of Trump's handling of the war. At similar stages, public support was higher for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as the campaign against ISIS. Trump therefore needs to end this unpopular war without making it look as though Iran is being rewarded for fighting back. And the longer the conflict continues, the harder that position becomes to defend. The campaign has already cost roughly $37 billion, while the Pentagon is asking for another $67 billion. At the same time, hostilities in Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, and Ukraine are burning through America's stocks of advanced air defense missiles and long-range weapons. This table by CSIS puts things into perspective. The estimates should be treated with caution, but it essentially shows that the Iran war has drained America's air defense stockpile. Patriot inventories have reportedly fallen below 1,000 interceptors, while THAAD is down to roughly 250. Replacing them will take years. Tomahawk, THAAD, and Patriot production cycles exceed 3 years, while major Patriot orders funded in fiscal year 2027 are not expected to arrive until May 2029. Congress understands the strain, but it has few practical tools to stop the president. On July 23rd, the House of Representatives narrowly passed a war powers resolution by 214 votes to 208, only for it to fail in the Senate by 47 votes to 49. But even if another resolution passed both chambers, Trump could veto it. So besides the symbolism, such a resolution would achieve very little. In response, Democrats are now trying to delay the annual defense bill over the cost of the war. That pressure could snowball ahead of the November midterms, when wider frustrations with the administration may cost Republicans control of Congress. Yet, the strongest resistance to a deal comes from Trump's own side. Republican hawks, pro-Israeli lobbying groups, and the Israeli government strongly oppose sanctions relief, Iranian influence over Hormuz, or any promise to restrain future American and Israeli strikes. And so, the White House is trapped between two politically dangerous choices. A wider war would strengthen the anti-war camp, while a major compromise would anger the Iran hawks. Meanwhile, the markets have not yet imposed enough pressure to force restraint on either. Oil remains below $100 per barrel, which is well below the $150 or $200 once predicted under a prolonged closure of Hormuz. As things stand now, Congress cannot stop the conflict, economic pressure remains manageable, and diplomacy would require concessions Trump may struggle to defend. So, for the executive office, escalation may carry greater risks, but politically, it is still the safer choice. The United States now has 5 broad options for escalating the conflict. Each carries the war beyond Iran in different ways. Tehran has usually attuned its response to the scale of American action, but hardliners now dominate its defense policy. So the next reply may be less proportional and more regional. Either way, for Trump, the first option is to resume localized strikes. American aircraft could target Iranian positions in and around Hormuz. They could bomb military facilities linked to the blockade along with targets near Bandar Abbas. Iran would likely answer by attacking US bases and infrastructure in the region. Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan are among the most exposed in that regard. This would be the easiest campaign to restart, but CENTCOM believes the previous strikes have proven ineffective at changing Iran's political behavior. The second option is broader. Trump has repeatedly threatened to bomb Iran's bridges and power plants, the same infrastructure that keeps the country running. The aim would be to inflict high economic pain that the military targets failed to produce. But infrastructure warfare cuts both ways. Iran could strike power stations, ports, refineries, and even desalination plants across the Gulf and Israel. During the hottest part of the year, damage to electricity and water systems could quickly turn into a humanitarian disaster. Trump's public statements suggest that he favors this option, but following through could backfire dramatically. By the way, the assets you're seeing, we've mapped all of them on Delta Sweep. It includes nuclear sites, refineries, military bases, ports, aircraft, and warships, all on one live map. Sign up for a trial and explore it at your own pace. More on this later. The third option is to let Israel lead. Washington could encourage renewed Israeli strikes in a bid to geographically narrow the conflict to one between Iran and Israel. This would reduce America's role, at least on the surface, and Netanyahu may have proposed this very approach during his recent visit to the White House. However, the conditions on the ground have changed considerably since the 12-day war in 2025. Iran is unlikely to retaliate against Israel alone. Countries hosting US troops would still be drawn in if Tehran determined that Washington was behind the assault. The fourth option is another coordinated US-Israeli shock and awe. Think of assassination attempts, covert raids, attacks on energy infrastructure, and a renewed effort to rattle Iran's leadership. The goal would be to weaken the hardliners, demonstrate overwhelming force, and then negotiate from a stronger position. But the case for this option is unconvincing. Not only would another attack likely fail to destabilize the Iranian government, but it would almost certainly trigger retaliation across the region. Nonetheless, Trump may still choose it if he believes one final offensive would allow him to cut a deal with the Iran hawks in Congress. The fifth option crosses into ground war. The United States has enough forces in the region to seize Karg, Abu Musa, or Qeshm Island, and potentially a foothold on the Iranian coast. Washington could then try to trade that territory for concessions over Hormuz. But territory creates obligations, and this particular option risks trapping the United States in an open-ended ground war that could last for months. During that time, American troops would have to defend exposed positions against drones and missiles, while Iran would look to maximize US casualties. Meanwhile, at home, and even in the Senate, political support would collapse. What was meant to provide a bargaining chip could quickly turn into a liability. Taken together, these options differ in scale, but they all lead in the same direction. Each widens the war without resolving the dispute that started it. Trump can still choose diplomacy, but the price of a deal is now higher than before. And given the choice, it may be easier to launch a war than defend a compromise. Peace, after all, may save lives, but war often saves face. Before we wrap up, if you want to keep tabs on events the same way we do at CaspianReport, check out Delta Sweep. It's our own open source intelligence platform. It pulls from more than 100 OSINT sources and covers every major conflict across the globe. Originally, we built it for our own research. The first signs of a crisis often surface in local reports, military channels, and specialist sources long before they reach the mainstream news. Delta Sweep brings those signals together, ranks them by severity, and visualizes them on a live map. This separates routine noise from developments that could actually move a conflict. Sign up for the free trial and explore it for yourself. Thank you for your time, and Saul.